All right, we are live. So we are in my group Credo Collective, Danielle, with we've got I think like 2,500-ish women in here, a couple men. There's like a handful of guys in here, but all about women that are ready to up level in their business. And this group used to be called the Butterfly Entrepreneur. And I came up with that name one day in the shower. Don't all good ideas come in the shower, right?
Right.
And I was in the shower and I'm like, Butterfly Entrepreneur, moving from accidental to intentional entrepreneur. Because so many people in here are in network marketing. And a lot of people in network marketing, it's kind of like, oh, sure, I'll sign up and get the discount. Or, sure, I'll start this thing. And we don't really know what we're doing. And then we start to dream big and decide we want more. And so that's kind of what this space is for. But for all of you watching, I wanted to bring in my friend Danielle so you could meet her. We do very different things, but we both help women, right? And Danielle and I met online like not too long ago, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly jumped on a Zoom together. And you probably had me crying on the first Zoom. Then we did a session together, and I'm going to let her explain what that means. We did a session together last week, and now I feel like Danielle's one of my best friends. So she's, I think you defined yourself as a relationship expert.
I'm a stuck relationship expert.
Self-relationship expert.
Stuck
relationship expert. There you go.
Yeah.
Stuck relationship expert. So, okay. Yeah. So let me just stop talking and let me know like, oh, yay, Catherine, just saw your comment. Let me know a little bit more about what you do and who you work with.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, Wendy. I'm really excited to be here with all of you. So what a stuck relationship expert is I work with women that are stuck in their life, right? So they're stuck in their relationship with their significant other. They're stuck in their relationship with their children. They want a better relationship with their parents. They want a better relationship with their friends. And what I've learned in the work that I do is that you can shift an energy in yourself, which in return shifts an energy in the relationship. So for example, let's say you're on here and you're struggling with your significant other and you've been to therapy, you've been to counseling, it hasn't worked for you. And you know in that deepest part of your soul that you're meant to be with that person, but for some reason you can't seem to make it work. That is what I do. I shift the energy in the woman in order to shift the relationship itself. And what I've learned is that it's so much deeper than you think it is. The reason you're struggling in those relationships might not be the reason you think. It's a lot deeper, but it's not complicated to work through.
Love that.
Yeah.
I have been, one thing that you talk about is like our subconscious, right?
Yes.
That sometimes like we're not aware of what's in our subconscious, but I've been reading, I think I told you about it, Danielle, but this book, Inner Size.
Yes, you told me about that. Yeah.
It's so good. And it talks about like that disconnect, right? With our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. And, we have programming from the time we're young and things that happen to us and trauma and all these things, right? That are in our subconscious. And so Danielle, I think you kind of like, you walk through like just becoming aware of things. And like one thing that she said to me, like, she's like, I hear your voice changing right now. Like we got to a point that she asked me a question and my voice changed. She's like, do you feel your throat getting tight? Like that's, I guess, right? You would describe like, we're not even aware sometimes of how our physical body reacts to what our because of our subconscious mind, right?
Right, exactly. So what I say is I really work with people that are feelers. So what I mean by that is if you were to close your eyes and you were to, feel like that, you're moving that out of your space of your head, okay? You're moving out of that head, you're moving out of those thoughts, you're moving out of that worry, and you're starting to move yourself into your body. So you start to slowly move yourself into your throat, okay? And you notice if there's a sensation there. So you notice if there's a tightness in your throat. You notice if there's, maybe you can't swallow in your throat, or there's a strain in your throat. And then you move into your chest. And let's say that you feel maybe it's heavy, or you feel that there's a strain in your chest. Okay. What I want you to ask yourself is, do you notice if there's a sensation there? Because those are the people that I work with, are people that can truly feel in their body. And the type of work I do, and the reason that I work with people that can feel in their body, is because it creates such a massive transformation in your life that I've chosen that that's the direction I have gone down with the clients that I work with. So it's really important to make sure that you can feel something in your body. So what I was explaining kind of to Wendy a little bit about this is that there's a difference between your conscious and your subconscious, right? So that conscious is that like 3 to 5% of where you live. And a lot of what happens is people are dealing with that 3 to 5%. When you're in therapy, when you're sitting with a counselor, you're sitting with a psychologist, right? You're talking it out. You're talking about what's on your mind. You're talking about, maybe getting some advice. Maybe they're just listening to you. You're venting is what you're really doing, which is actually raising the beta waves in your body. Okay. So I don't know if you've gone to therapy, but after therapy, you might feel a little bit better, or you might even feel worse. What the work I do is I work with the subconscious, which is that 95 to 97% of where you live. And what happens is, as we think we know where we got stuck, we think we know why we feel the way that we do. But your subconscious has a totally different thought than you ever could imagine. I'll give an example because I feel like this will help you understand it a little bit better. I had a client that came to me, and she was really frustrated, and she was a huge people pleaser. And she had a really bad relationship with her mom, and she kind of hated her mom for it. She blamed her mom that she was a people pleaser. And this was actually our first session together, believe it or not. And I just started to notice as she was talking about her mom that her voice started to change and things started to feel a little bit different. And I had her sink into her body, right? Your body knows. Your body knows what's going on. If you can get to that place in your body will speak for you. It will tell you exactly what's going on. And what happened was, it led her to a moment in her life where she was at school and she was forced to eat these peas. It was like a counselor or a principal, I don't remember exactly who it was. And they forced her to eat these peas. And they made her sit in the cafeteria while all the other kids got to play. And as a 4-year-old little girl, that feels like ages. It feels like you're sitting there for hours and hours. And what she realized in that moment is that is where she became a people pleaser, because she got stuck in that moment. She got stuck trying to people please, trying to eat those peas, even though she didn't want to, even though her soul knew she didn't want that. And she blamed it on her mom. And what she realized is when her mom came to pick her up after she'd been sitting there to a 4-year-old, what felt like hours, she realized that she thought that the face that she thought when she was a 4-year-old girl was that her mom was disappointed in her, that her mom thought she was a disgrace. And when she was working through it subconsciously, she realized her mom never sent her back to that school. Her mom felt bad for her. Her mom felt sadness for her. And so in that moment, what happened for her is her whole dynamic of her relationship of her mom changed. And then what it led to was sadness that she took on that memory that she didn't have that relationship with her mom. But today she has a relationship with her mom. And it's all because she thought she got stuck somewhere where she didn't. Wow. So just ask yourself, maybe you think you got stuck somewhere. I'm telling you, it's probably not where you got stuck. It's a lot more intricate than you could ever imagine. But I don't want you to think it's complicated, because it's not.
Yeah, so interesting. So a lot of people in here, right, are in business. And in fact, I just got off a mastermind call with my clients, and our conversation that we talked about was self-sabotage.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you might have like some insight to self-sabotage that's maybe different than things that are talked about. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you see that often where people self-sabotage and it it's not like the way that you work with people, it may be quicker to get to that place of figuring out where it stems from? Because most people I talk to are like, I don't know why I do that. Right?
Yeah. Man, self-sabotage is a big one. I used to struggle with self-sabotage. It was a really hard one for me to work through and to get over. And not to say I'm perfect, right? Like we have those moments where I don't know if anyone has been in here and they've heard of Gay Hendricks, right? But he talks about that upper limit problem. Have you read that book?
Mhm.
Oh my God, it's amazing. Okay. So it's called The Big Leap, and he talks about the upper limit problem, but I'm going to go deeper into it. Okay. So he talks about the upper limit problem, which is basically the idea of when something feels so good in your life, you're not used to that good feeling, that you do something to sabotage that feeling. Okay. So for example, he talks about this. He talks about how you might have a car accident, you might have a fall, you might yell at your partner about absolutely nothing. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get yourself back to that place of comfort. So where I take it to the next level, and it's crazy because I actually came up with this before I read his book, is that the way I look at things is, imagine in your life that you have a rope in front of you, okay? And there's all these different knots, okay? Some knots are larger, some knots are, some knots are smaller, and they're spaced out. And the way I talk about it is when people come to me, they have a lot of knots. Most people, at least. So they have a lot of knots and they're bigger knots, right? So you have to break through those knots. And then what happens through the work that I do is there's space and there's absolutely nothing there. And this goes with self-sabotage. So there's absolutely nothing there, right? And they feel so good. And they're like, Danielle, I never knew I could feel this way. Oh my gosh, I never knew I could feel this way. I never knew that this was inside of me. And then maybe like a week, 2 weeks go by, and they have this knot that comes back up. And that's where people self-sabotage. That's where people say, I failed. I give up. It doesn't work. Nothing works. And what I have learned is that that knot is there to help you grow, right? Growing pains. We talked about this, right? That pain is there to help you grow. But the problem is that people don't see it that way. They see it as a failure. They see it as this doesn't work. And I'm going to be real with you guys. The work I do, you're going to have less and less and less and less pain. Okay. But you're going to have pain because pain is there to help you grow. It's about how you deal with that pain. Right. So what happens is people self-sabotage because they think they're back where they started, when really they're just at that next level and they're ready to move to that next level. And there's a lot that goes into knots, but that's the basics of knots, of understanding. One, you have to understand the upper limit problem of why you're doing it in the first, or you have to understand that you're doing it in the first place, have an awareness that you're doing it,
Yeah.
right? And then you have to understand, why am I doing it? And that's the work I go into, is why are you doing it? And once you can get to the root of why you're self-sabotaging, you don't self-sabotage anymore.
Yeah.
You don't continue to create that pattern. Because what I want people to understand on here, and same for you, Wendy, is that it's an energy in your body. It happened at a point. For some people, it happened at being conceived, which is crazy. That's very rare. But for some people, it happened in the womb. For some people, it happened when they were 2 years old, right? And it started that pattern. And then what happens is that pattern is triggered. And then the next energy goes and it's the next thing. And then you keep seeing that energy over and over and over again in your life. And it doesn't change until you get to the root of where it started in the first place.
You saying it could happen in the womb. Like that was never on my radar ever, that was a real thing. And then I started in helping with foster care, and I had to take, I forget the acronym, EFMR training,
EMDR?
EMDR training, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, but they talked about like trauma can start in the womb. Like if you had, as a mother, if you were stressed in your pregnancy, that stress hormone affects your baby. And I'm like, I never knew, because so I had my second pregnancy was a very stressful situation. And that's the child I have the most trouble with. And he was also in the NICU for 10 days after he was born. And in this training I did, they were talking about kids in the NICU they're experiencing tons of trauma, detachment from their mother. And I had no idea that this is like all in that programming and that subconscious from such a young age.
It's in their body.
It's in
It's
there.
in the energies of their body. So with your child right now, what's happening is that energy has been in there since the womb. So there's ways you can release energy from a child in order for them to start acting different, in order for them to feel safer in their own body, right? And so the biggest thing I talk about, and this might trigger some people, but the biggest thing I talk about is when I look at a child, I don't look at the child. I look at the parent. So I'll put myself, right? I'll put myself front and center. When my son is whiny and he's fussy and he just seems off, I look at myself and I say, how are you showing up and what's going on inside of you? And he's such a beautiful gift for me, because even when I don't know something's going on inside of me, I'm able to check with inside of myself to see, wait a second, there actually is something that's going on inside, and he's picking up that energy that I am not noticing in that moment. So really start to, if you're on here and you have children, even your significant other, especially as a woman, they're picking up that energy that you're putting out. And especially with children, going back to the womb, I had a client, just to give you an example, where she had worked through a little bit of control. And I think it came up when she was like maybe 5 or something, but she never worked through the womb. And what happened was her mom was really depressed. So she was always laying down. And my client, she always wanted to move. And she always felt that stillness and she wanted to get control. And obviously she couldn't. And so her control came from the womb. So it wasn't until we worked through the womb that she had full success with control in her life and not feeling like she needed control, that she was really, truly able to trust and to surrender.
Wow. Interesting. So Tracy said can you see the comment on that?
Yeah, yes. I'm going to read it out loud. Yes, my first child's father was abusive and she is such a fighter. And I know it's because of how hard I had to fight while she was inside of me, but now she fights with me. I would love to talk to you, Tracy, because my belief on that is that that's an energy that's in her body. She had to fight for that. And you had to fight for that. And so that's the energy that's been inside of her body for so long. It's all she knows. And so if you're able to release that energy through the mom, you're able to release that energy through the child. It's really a beautiful thing. It really is.
Yeah. So, how did you get into this?
Oh man. Oh, how did I get into this? That's a fun story, guys. Obviously,
because your mom does this specifically for people with physical pain, correct?
Yes. So I actually, man, it's such a long story. Let me see how I can shorten it a little bit. So I was in matchmaking. Okay. I was in matchmaking and I worked for an incredible matchmaker, and I was setting up phone calls with women. I was setting up their profiles. Okay. That, the men would see. And I was talking to these women on the phone, and I just loved talking to them. It wasn't part of my job. And I would just sit there for hours and talk to these women. And as I was setting up their profiles, I would ask them certain questions, and they didn't know who they were. I was like pulling stuff out of them. Like, how are you going to be set up with somebody if you don't know who you are? And if you don't know who you are, how are you don't love yourself, right? But my biggest thing was I always wanted to get to the root of why something wasn't happening in someone's life. That was always my personality. Like I'm really deep, and I like to get nitty and gritty quick. I'm not one for surface level conversation. And so I was talking to these women, and I believe that when you're ready, you attract that person. When you're ready and you align to that, you attract it. Whether it's on a dating app or not, or whether it's in person, you still attract that. So for me, I wanted to get more to the root of things. And then what was happening was my sister was sick. She was in the psych ward. My other sister had been diagnosed with early onsets of MS. And my mom had already been searching for answers for 20 plus years. And that was where we had gotten to. We had been to doctor after doctor. We'd been to therapist after therapist. I had been to the best clinics, and we kept coming out dry, and we had no answers. And what we realized in that moment was there has to be something better. You're not meant to put a Band-Aid on your life. There has to be something better. And that's what we started to search for. We started to search for answers. And so at first we got into EFT. My mom got into EFT, and I got into EFT with her, which is emotional freedom techniques. And it's the idea of tapping on the meridians in your body in order to release the energy that would not be released. But for us, it was powerful. And we started to see some changes with my sister, but it wasn't enough for us. And so we started to just do more research and do more research. And what came from it was, I think if you're on here and you're in a business, you realize this, but you're building something and you don't even realize you're building it. And that's what started to happen was we started to see these massive transformations with our clients, and these women that came in the trenches and we're in a totally different place. And we're like, what we have is a formula. And that's what we've created. We've created our own formula to rid you of trauma. And rid is such a big word, but that is what I do. I rid you of your trauma. If you've been abused, if you've been raped, if you've been molested, if you've had domestic violence, if you've been in car accidents, if you've had falls, if you've had surgeries and never been the same since, if you have abandonment, there's all kinds of things, but those are some of the main ones that we see. I rid you of that. I take that away from you, and I help you see how something so horrible can be something so beautiful, and how that can show back up in your life. It's a really beautiful journey.
That's awesome. So part of what Danielle and I were talking about is I'm a very, I don't know, she pegged me like in one quick conversation, but I'm like very driven, and I'm like, and you guys watching have probably heard me say, like, just make up your mind and do it, right? Like if you want to hit a goal, just decide that's first part is deciding you're going to do it, right? And Danielle's like, some people might not be able to. They might actually have something blocking them and they don't know what it is. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So for example, and I'm not talking bad on anything else, right? Like I'm not talking bad on affirmations. I'm not talking bad on psychologists. I'm not talking bad on that. What I'm talking about is that it's sometimes a little more complicated for somebody else, in the sense of you can't just say you're enough. You can't just say you're beautiful. You can't just say you forgive somebody or write a letter and say, I forgive. For some people, it's not like that. And I just want you to know you're not alone. That's my story. People would always tell me I lived in victimhood, which I think I did. I think I lived in a little bit more of that state of not taking full responsibility for my life. But what I learned about myself was the way that everyone else had found their answer wasn't my answer, right? This wasn't my answer. And so I had been in therapy for years. I had the best of the best, right? I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. My family spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the reason I say that is I don't want you to think there's anything wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just that what everyone else is doing isn't working for you. And there's other answers out there. And so what I learned is that just saying these things, there is proof. Affirmations do work. There's scientific proof they work. But for some people, they don't. It's not so simple just to get out of that space. If you're on here and you feel extremely misunderstood, you're a sensitive soul. You feel like you're that force of nature inside, but you don't act like it, in the outer world, it's because there's something that's stuck inside of you. And so what I want you to realize is there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. It's just, and it sounds kind of bad, but it's just the system isn't made for us. It's not. The system is made for people that can handle things at a conscious level, and we can't. And so when you release that energy that's stuck in your body and you align that conscious with the subconscious, they meet together and they become one and they stop fighting each other. And when you can stop fighting each other, your energy aligns and you show up differently. It's almost impossible not to show up differently with this type of work. So, what I really want to say on that is if affirmations work for you, if going to a psychologist works for you, then that's fine. But the biggest thing that I will say is get real with yourself. I see a lot of people that say, oh, I'm healed. I feel fine. I'm great. When really inside they're breaking. And I can read through that. That's part of my gift. I can read when someone's hiding. And I just want you to get real on if you've been on this track and you've been on this track for years and you're dealing with the same problem year after year, or you're still struggling, like you're still feeling that sensations in your body. Or let's say you, a lot of what I've been seeing lately online is people telling their stories. And it's a beautiful thing to tell your story. But what hurts my soul so much is that people aren't over their story. It's so hard for them to get through that video that they're sitting there crying. They're sitting there sobbing. They're sitting there not even being able to talk. I'm not saying you can't feel your story, but I will tell you, if you're sitting there trying to tell your story and you can't get through it, you're not over it. My clients could get on here and talk to you as if we're going to the grocery store. We're going to the grocery store and we're picking up eggs, milk, and cheese. And it's because it's stuck in the energies of your body. So even though what happened to you feels complicated, I'm never going to discredit what happened to you. But you have to ask yourself, do you want to live with that? Do you want to live with that for the rest of your life?
Yeah. Well, I will tell you guys, and everyone in my audience knows I'm a strong woman of faith, Bible believing, Jesus lover. And Danielle and I talked about this, and I grew up kind of in this space where I thought everything can be fixed by prayer, right? And I'm not saying that things can't be fixed by prayer, okay? But I also, in talking to Danielle, I feel like God has gifted you with a way to help people. We have, there's this honestly, I'm just going to get real here, but maybe it's something we can work through. But a year ago, I lost a family member to suicide, and she loved the Lord. Our last conversations together were about God and faith and prayer and miracles. And she shot herself and left behind 4 kids. And it was in that experience that I realized, really honestly, for the first time, that not everything is fixed in an instant with prayer. And she was broken and she cried out to God, but she didn't have what she needed, just like, cancer, right? Not everyone is just healed. In fact, most people aren't just healed of cancer, right? And it's I looked at our mental state as so much different than the physical state, or what we see as mental health or physical health. And it was in that experience with her, that I realized it opened my mind, I guess, to other things and other ways of learning how to heal. And then in talking to you, it's God has gifted you in this.
Thank you.
As a tool to help people break free.
Can I speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's really important. I'm sure there's a lot of Jesus lovers in here, right? Let's just say what it is. You guys are Jesus lovers. And I think the biggest thing with that is so for one, the work that I do, I teach you how to heal yourself. It's really important. I teach you how to heal yourself. Everything you've ever been searching for is inside of you. And I know that you hear that probably a lot. It's very cliche at this point, but like truly, I show you everything that you've been looking for is there. You have to access it. And the problem is that we're asking other people for our answers when really our answers are inside of ourselves, right? And so the biggest thing when I want to talk about the Jesus lovers and people that are religious is I had a girl actually come and talk to me and she was like, I'm really religious and I'm really based on my own beliefs. And a lot of coaches out there try to tell you what to believe. What I want you to realize about the work that I do is it actually gets you closer to what you believe in. So I don't take that away from you. I'm actually Jewish. So I'm more spiritual than anything and I believe in God, but I don't take that away from you. Whatever it is you believe, that is your truth and that is what you're here to do in this world. I get you closer to that person. I get you closer to that person. I get you closer to Jesus. I've had people where I teach them like their soul and what their souls are represented by, and they literally see Jesus on the cross. So I just want you to understand, like, it doesn't take you away from it. It brings you closer to it. And the work that I do isn't about telling you your answer. It's about guiding you to your answer. And I just wanted to make that really clear because I think some people get strayed away from people that aren't their religion and they're actually missing out on the work that I do because they're afraid that, you know, it's going to take them farther away from that. And it actually brings them so much closer. I actually have a lot of people that come to me that love Jesus because I think for that reason, because I bring them closer to the religion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Kelly says, please tell me she has a book. I will buy it today.
That's really crazy. She said that. Wow. That's God right there. I'm actually, I haven't shared this at all, but I'm actually in the process of writing a book. So Thank you for that. Thank you. That means a lot.
Well, so how can people work with you? Because I this is why I wanted to bring her on because we do not do the same thing. Not even close. And I'm also like not the greatest at relating. Like we talked about this. I care for people, but I'm not a huge like empath. Like I would not consider myself that at all. I'm like, put your big girl panties on and get to work, right? Like that's my mentality. I do love people, and the people in here watching, they know my heart, right? And they know I love, but I don't have like that gift that you have, and that's why I wanted to bring you in here, because I believe that you have a gift, and you have so much love in your heart, like, and it radiates through you. This is my third time seeing you face to face virtually, but like I feel like God brought us together. I really do. So. I know a lot of people here could use the work that you're doing. So can you share a bit of how?
Yeah. So you can find me at Danielle Smason on Facebook. Please do not be a stranger. Just reach out. I won't know you're on here. I can't reach out to you, but just message me. And I want to hear your story. That is my biggest thing is I want to hear someone's story. And then if I feel like it's the right fit, I'll offer you, to be able to work with me closer. But I'm here to just listen and to hear and to really truly hear what it is that's going on and to help you piece things together that maybe you've never been able to piece together. So whether we get on a call and we choose to work together long term, amazing. If not, I'm telling you that one call will change your life because it'll help you piece things together that you've never been able to piece together. So find me on Danielle Smason. I do closely work with people one-on-one. I've been doing that for years. It's funny that you say this. It's crazy because I actually was behind the scenes for the last 5 years. And I'm just now showing myself to the world. So I just want to tell you how much this means to me. I don't think you understand how much this means to me and creating this safe space for me. And for all of you being here and supporting me, I just want to say thank you so much. I can't begin to explain what it means because I was a girl that hid for years of my talents and of my gifts and of my abilities. Yeah. So I just want to say thank you so much for that. But I do work with people one-on-one only because that's my jam. That's what I like to do. So it is an investment to work with me. I work with people in a container for 4 months at a time. So please, if you're serious, please message me. I'd love to talk with you. Love to hear your story and see if it's the right fit.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Danielle, for being
so much,
here.
Wendy.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Of course.
I'm glad we met. See,
I
virtual
know.
relationships can be so amazing.
They really can. Yeah.
And guys, and I want to throw this out there. I met Danielle because I prospect people, right? I prospect people, and I look at prospecting in my business. I told somebody yesterday, prospecting is fun because of all the amazing. Does everyone join my business? No, but I make some incredible friendships and relationships, and I love it. And God uses my business driving me to prospect to bring me amazing relationships. So, and you're one of those, and I'm excited to chat with you more.
Yeah, me
Thanks
too.
for Danielle.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.